Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and I thought today what we would discuss is getting a baseline. And what do I mean by a baseline? Well, it's where you should start every repair from.
Northern New York parts.
And if you've watched any of my videos, a lot of times you can't take and go by what the customer tells you is wrong with their machine because they don't know. But you need a baseline to start with. And what I recommend and what we do here at the shop, fuel, drain it. I mean it. Get rid of it. Open the bottom of the carburetor. Get rid of all the fuel that's in that system. That's a baseline. Now you're starting from scratch. That's where you want to start from. You don't want to start from gas that's been in there for 3 years. And I've seen gas that sat in a can for a year and actually will not fire on it. If it does, it'll run badly. And I know that I remember watching one tech somewhere. He was saying that every time you go to put fuel into your lawnmower or your chainsaw, shake it up good because the ethanol tends to separate and it draws water. So he thought by shaking it, it would dilute it. For your older machines, tell your customers to go with the non-ethanol. For the stuff that's been made in the last 6 to 8 years, the 89 is fine. My machines run fine on it. But storage, if your customer is buying fuel ahead and he's got 5 gallon containers that he isn't going to use in the next 5 years, that's a poor investment, right? Because now that gas has been sitting and it does go bad. Whereas diesel doesn't. It can sit for years because it's oil-based. Gas is not. Gas has got the ethanol in it. So we always want to start at a baseline. So the first thing you want to do is you want to drain all the fuel out of that system. Don't take any chances. They may have got a batch of bad gas at the local gas station. The tanker was sitting there filling up while they were filling their jugs, which I've seen that before. Another rule of thumb, if you pull into a gas station and you see one of the big tanker trucks unloading fuel, probably not a good idea to be buying fuel because it stirs everything up in that tank that's down there. And now it's even the contaminants are coming through. All right, so why do I say we need to drain all the gas to get a baseline? Well, that way we know that it's not going to be fuel related. We already know that the rules are you want to make sure that you have compression, which is easily done and should be your first thing. A lot of times when you pull something over, like it's a chainsaw, weed eater, or something like that, unless it's the easy starts, you'll tell if you got compression or not. But I always recommend, even when you think you have compression, throw the gauge on it. Takes a couple minutes. Take and give it 4 or 5 good cranks and look at where you're at. So with your weed eaters, chainsaws, backpack blowers, all that stuff, if it's been sitting for a while, this is a little trick that I'm going to tell you from our shop to your shop. Don't be afraid to add a little bit of penetrating oil into the spark plug hole if you don't have compression. And why do I say that? Well, what tends to happen is if it sits for very long in there, you're going to find that the rings are going to seat and they're not moving, they're rusted in. And what I do, and what I did with a Husqvarna chainsaw that a customer had brought in, I was getting 18 to 20 pounds of compression out of it. And He said, I haven't used it, Eric, in a few years, but I went to use it and I can't get it to start. Okay, so I did the compression twice. Same thing, 18 to 20. So I ended up taking some PB Blaster and put a couple shots right into took the spark plug out, a couple shots right in there, put the plug back in, and forgot about it for 3 days. Let it sit for 3 days. And at the end of the 3 days, pull it over a few times and then put your compression tester back on. If she doesn't come up, then probably she's not gonna. But in that case, it came up to 115. So if it comes into your shop and it has no compression, don't get nervous just yet. Add some PB Blaster penetrating oil right in on the top of the cylinder, on top of the piston, so that the rings pull over a couple times so that you can get a good amount of fluid around the ring that's in there, and then forget about it. So that's the first thing, the compression. But that's our little trick because it does work and it happens a lot. Fuel. Fuel is going to be the next thing. Well, we drained all the fuel out, right? So that's where our baseline is. So we know that whatever fuel goes into that unit is stuff that we bought, and we buy the non-ethanol for repair work here at the shop. That way we know that it's a better quality fuel. It's a little bit more money, but we know what it is. So we put fresh fuel in. And then we want to know, does it have fire? Compression, good fuel, and fire. And as we've talked about in the past, you can get that spark tester that will pop on top of your spark plug, pop on top of your coil wire that comes to the spark plug so it sits in the middle. As you pull it over, it'll show a spark in there. Sometimes it's hard if it's really bright out, or in your shop if it's very bright, turn the lights off so you can see it really good. Give her a couple good pulls, and that should light up if you're getting good fire. And then lastly, air. Now, air is two things when it comes to chainsaws and weed eaters. Air is where the air breather is. It's got to have sufficient airflow coming in through a clean filter. But also what happens with the two-strokes, some people tend to add it a little bit rich, which isn't a bad thing. It's better to be rich than not enough. Check the muffler on it. And a lot of times there's a fine screen in that muffler. It's a spark arrestor, but it's a fine screen. And if that gets plugged up, no matter how much air you got coming this way, if it can't exhaust correctly, it's not going to run right. So that's another little trick that we have here at the shop, is you've got your baseline of, you've got compression, spark, good fuel, and that you know you're getting a volume of air through it. What we normally do when we have a machine come in, the first thing we do is just give her a couple shots of carburetor cleaner, give it a pull and see if it starts. If it starts, we know that we've got a baseline to go to. Now, do not use starting fluid. Starting fluid, some of the starting fluid, not every starting fluid bottle is the same. Now, Stable puts out a starting fluid that's got oil in it. Because the problem with starting fluid, ether, is that it will dry out the cylinder walls, and you do not want to dry out the cylinder walls. Whereas carburetor cleaner won't do that. Carburetor cleaner is the all for gas engines. Starting fluid is strictly, in my thing, is for diesel tractors. And if you guys out there have got the diesel compacts and stuff like that, and you need to use starting fluid on it, make sure the starting fluid is one that has oil in it. And what we buy is we buy stable. I'll be honest with you. I don't get any kickbacks, and I'm not affiliated with them. But that's what we buy for starting fluid, and we also buy the stable for the carburetor cleaner through one of our dealerships. You can get it at Walmart. Just pay attention when you look at the starting fluid to make sure that it's with oil in it. The old school, your starting fluid didn't have any oil in it, and she will dry out the cylinders on you in a hurry. So, brings us back to, we've got a baseline, but we need to have certain tools in the shop. And those tools are a compression tester. That can be bought at Harbor Freight. I'm not affiliated with them either. That can be bought at Harbor Freight for under $40. You're going to want a spark tester. I think they're running right around $3 to $5 at Harbor Freight. You can get the straight or the elbow connection. You're going to want to invest into some mixed bag of screwdrivers, Phillips regular, some Allen wrenches. You're going to want your, I would recommend for those of you starting out, like with your weed eaters and stuff like that, your chainsaws, I like the 1/4 inch. I mean, it's easy to work with for sockets and stuff, but mine are all Craftsman that are here, right there behind me. There. But I've got 4 other boxes that size. And the one that we have out in the shop, that's 80% of it is Harbor Freight. I'll be honest with you. And the 2 up to my house, it's a mix of Harbor Freight, Craftsman, some S&K, some Snap-on that over the years I've bought here and there, and it's just kind of a mixed garble. But I would recommend that you get the kit from Harbor Freight that has 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 inch drive. And a lot of times they'll have the spark plug socket right in the set. And with the set that I'm encouraging you to buy, it's also got like your wrenches, screwdrivers, Allen wrenches. It's got everything in a black case, and it folds down. And it has snaps on it. What you can do is, if you have a big toolbox like I have there, you can take and pull the pins and set those trays right into your toolbox so that it's all right there, and you can just set stuff back in. And I do that back here. The other thing I would encourage you to invest in is a hoist of some kind for your lawnmowers so you can get underneath them. And again, Tractor Supply, Harbor Freight has them. I think they're under $200. But the only other option is to use a floor jack and then try to block it up, because the last thing you want is something to come down on you and get hurt, right? Safety, safety, safety is number one. And then the other thing is a godsend is I've got the 3/8 and I've got the 1/4 DeWalt's 20 volt, and they will make your life wonderful if you're doing very much. Now, the thing you got to watch out with the 3/8 with this 20 volt, it will snap bolts if you get onto it. When you're starting bolts and nuts, do it with your hand first. Make sure that you got it's threading correctly, and then buzz it in. Go right around. This is going to save you a lot of labor of turning in a wrench. Old school, turn a wrench. New school, get one of these. And like I say, I've got the 1/4 inch and I've got the 3/8. I do have the 1/2 inch in electric, and we do have the 1/2 inch and the DeWalt. battery with a 20 volt with the bigger batteries on it for longer durations that we use out in the field. Because if you guys follow us at all, about half our work is here at the shop. The other is out in the field. And like this morning, I've got to go look at a wood processor. It's got a 60 horse diesel engine on it, and the guy can't get it to run. So we'll be out there this morning. I've got a mini excavator. I got to do some work up to some camps on the local lake that they want done as a side hustle. I got a guy that called me, needs a rim for a John Deere 2030 tractor. I've got 2 of them, so I can take care of him. But everything you need can be bought reasonable. And when you're first starting out, use Harbor Freight. Craftsman is next. You know, be great to go with Snap-on, but for a 1/4 inch set of sockets for Snap-on, you could buy the toolbox and all your tools at Harbor Freight. Go figure. All right, so on that note, you guys have a great day. Keep going at the shop. You're doing good. And if you have any questions or comments, I look every day to see if there's any comments, to see if it needs to be answered. If you guys got videos that you would like to see on something that has been kind of hard for you guys to get over or trying to figure out, or post it. If I don't know, somebody else might that also follows the channel. And lastly, if you're getting anything out of this, please subscribe. You know, that helps our channel grow. We're still in infancy right now, but I'm hoping it'll take off and that a lot of you folks that are watching it feel that we're putting out decent content to help you run your business. All right. So we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching.